Welcome to Patchy and Friends.
Welcome to a two-part video series where I cover clouds. In this video, I will reveal some interesting information about the formation of clouds and demonstrate the steps of drawing them. What are clouds? A cloud is a big group of water drops, sometimes large, sometimes small. Clouds form when heat causes a sufficient amount of water drops to rise up from the warm ground into the sky. When enough of these little drops rise up, they group together and bond into a cloud. Now that we know what clouds are, groups of water drops bonded together, let's start drawing them. Since these are going to have three-dimensionality, we need to first draw them as a series of circles that go slightly over one another, or overlap. Now we have a general form of a cloud, but there is something in the air that will cause these perfect shapes to change. Wind pulls part of these spheres out, and we need to account for that when drawing clouds. I will simplify the wisps into very, very long triangles that kind of look like Grinch fingers. Now we have the symbols of both the condensed water vapor as well as the wind-blown cloud corners, and we can outline these main shapes and erase the extra lines. I find it really fun to combine more circles together to get new clouds. To increase the shape drama, I might start by drawing a very big circle and end with a tiny circle. Some clouds are big and massive, so they're formed from a lot of circles, and some are baby clouds that have one or two main circles. Because the baby clouds are smaller, they become more susceptible to the force of the wind, and the corners are pulled out much further and look wispier. Now that we know what clouds are and how to draw them, we are ready to hang them up in the sky. To place the clouds in your painting correctly, we need to keep in mind the idea of perspective, or what happens to objects as they go further back into the distance. Let's draw the horizon. It's the furthest thing we can see, and everything gets smaller towards it. This is clear when you look at a road going into the distance, and at trees becoming smaller and smaller until we cannot see most of the details. The same thing happens in the sky. Everything becomes smaller towards the horizon, so when placing clouds into the sky, remember that they will go from big to small. But wait! Something is wrong. I drew the clouds smaller towards the horizon, but I kept the spaces between the clouds the same. I need to fix that, because everything gets smaller, and that includes the spaces between objects. When arranging objects in a landscape drawing, perspective is one of the key things to keep in mind, but there are a few more things to learn before composing the clouds in the sky. Let's talk about composition. I have done a video in the past about composition, and I have added a link to it in the description. When arranging things in a drawing, there are three things that could help make your drawing even better: overlapping, sizing, and placing objects on different levels. First, let's discuss overlapping, or placing one object slightly in front of the other, just like you did when you drew the circles for the clouds. It is great to use some overlap in the clouds to enhance the feel of distance. When overlapping, try to find a good balance. Don't pull a cloud too far or too low. You do not want to stack your clouds, so please avoid touching the top of one cloud to the bottom of the other. Actually have them go over one another. Make sure the wisps also have room to breathe. Different sizes. Due to the nature of perspective, which makes object look smaller towards the horizon and larger away from it, this part of composition is easier achieved when drawing clouds in a landscape. Make sure that your clouds are different sizes, and make sure that the distances between the clouds also vary. The third and final thing to keep in mind when creating a composition is placing the clouds on different levels. In other words, some clouds should be lower and some higher. Make sure to avoid having your clouds all on the same line. This is easier done when you have overlap. These three compositional tools will help you lead the viewer's eye through your drawing and create a more pleasing look. The last topic I will cover is cloud shadows. As I mentioned before, the clouds are three-dimensional semi-transparent objects, so they generally have a lighter side and a darker side, which of course depends on where they are in respect to the sun. Some clouds do not have much of a shadow because they're not very dense, or they're so small and wispy that they're too transparent to have a clear shadow. These small clouds are usually very light in color, and that is because clouds are made up of water drops, and these reflect sunlight and bounce it around, making the whole thing lighter. Some clouds, on the other hand, appear very dark altogether. These are usually thunderclouds. They're so dark because they're composed of much larger water drops that do not reflect light as much as the tiny water drops. In fact, the word cloud comes from the Old English word for a big rock, named so because of the giant menacing rain clouds that come over the English landscape. Clouds are beautiful and unpredictable. Some are small, some are large and fluffy, some slightly wispy, and others almost completely transparent. Thank you so much for watching my video on drawing clouds. In the next video from this two-part series about clouds, I will discuss how to paint them. And as always, Patchy says bye!